1,300 years ago, beside a wetland in what is now Utah, a small fire burns in the darkness. There are no cities here, no farms, no written language. Agriculture itself is still thousands of years away. And yet, among the ashes of that fire, archaeologists would eventually uncover something that shouldn't make sense for this moment in time: 4 tiny tobacco seeds. It's a discovery that pushes tobacco use back nearly 9,000 years earlier than anyone expected. The obvious explanation is simple enough. Humans use tobacco because nicotine is addictive. But addiction can only explain why something continues. It can't explain how it began. Before there was a habit, there was a first time. And before there was a first time, someone had to choose it. So these seeds aren't really evidence of tobacco at all. They're evidence of a decision, which means the real mystery here was never the plant. The mystery is curiosity itself, the question of why an Ice Age hunter-gatherer with no guarantee of safety and no understanding of what this plant would do to their body chose to try it anyway. Nicotine didn't cause that first moment. It couldn't have. Nicotine creates a habit, but only after the habit already has somewhere to begin. So if it wasn't the chemical pulling people in, what was? That question gets bigger the longer you sit with it, because tobacco isn't alone. Humans have spent thousands of years reaching for alcohol, for cannabis, for psychoactive plants woven into sacred rituals across nearly every culture on Earth. Different substances, different continents, different centuries, the same underlying behavior appearing again and again. Which means the question was never really why did humans keep smoking? The real question is why they tried it in the first place. And once you ask it that way, the story stops being about addiction. It becomes a story about consciousness itself, about a species that has always somehow wanted to experience reality differently than it's given. If that pattern shows up everywhere, the next question is unavoidable. Where did it begin? This isn't proof. It's only a clue, but it's a strange one. Animals consume fermented fruit and behave as though they're intoxicated. Birds eat berries, known to alter their flight, their balance, their behavior. Across the animal kingdom, there are flickers of something that looks remarkably like the same impulse, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe this search for altered experience doesn't belong to humans exclusively. Maybe it's older than civilization. Maybe it has roots buried somewhere in biology itself. And if it's older than civilization, how far back does it actually go? The obvious question to ask is, when did humans start using tobacco? But that question assumes tobacco was the beginning. What if it wasn't? What if tobacco is only one chapter in a much older story and the real beginning isn't a plant at all, but something simpler, something humans encountered long before they ever cultivated anything? What if smoking is older than tobacco itself? If that's true, the story doesn't start in a field. It starts with smoke. Night falls over southern Africa. Inside a cave, a fire glows faintly against the stone. A child stares into the flames as smoke drifts slowly toward the ceiling. This is Wonderwork Cave, and the evidence found here pushes the story of controlled fire back nearly 1 million years to Homo erectus. The obvious explanation for fire is that it changed what humans could eat. It made food safer, softer, easier to digest. But every one of those fires produced something else too. Smoke, night after night, year after year, generation after generation, breathing the same drifting air beside the flames. Fire didn't only change what humans ate, it changed what they breathed, which raises a possibility almost too strange to say out loud. The first altered experiences in human history may not have come from a plant at all. They may have come from simply sitting beside a fire. This is a possibility, not a certainty, but it's one worth sitting with. Because here's the question that follows. What happens when an exposure like that lasts for hundreds of thousands of years? Millions of fires, thousands of plant species burning alongside them, repeated, accidental, unavoidable exposure, generation after generation. The obvious assumption is that humans intentionally went looking for psychoactive smoke, but that's rarely how discovery works. Discovery usually begins by accident, repeated exposure, repeated experience, repeated observation, until a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Given enough time, it would be far more surprising if humans never noticed these effects than if they did, which suggests something quietly profound. Maybe altered states of consciousness weren't invented by humans at all. Maybe they were encountered, and once something is encountered and remembered, the next question becomes, what happens after a discovery like that survives for generations? If a single civilization had invented smoking, you'd expect to find it in one place, spreading slowly outward. But that's not what the evidence shows. Scythian tribes filled their tents with smoke as part of ritual. The Maya built tobacco into ceremony and belief. Egyptian rites used ceremonial smoke as a bridge to the sacred. Ayurvedic traditions in India developed their own relationship with smoke and plant medicine, entirely independent of the others. Different plants, different beliefs, different corners of the world that had no contact with one another, and yet the same destination. Humanity didn't inherit smoking from a single origin point passed hand to hand. Humanity kept reinventing it over and over in isolation, as though something about it kept needing to be rediscovered, which tells you the impulse driving it matters more than any single substance ever could. So we return to that fire beside the wetland in Utah, to the 4 small seeds resting in the ash. Thousands of years, thousands of generations, countless different substances and rituals scattered across every continent, and underneath all of it, the same behavior, surfacing again and again like it was always going to. Because the story was never really about tobacco. It was about a species that has never stopped searching for ways to experience reality differently than it's given. Perhaps the desire to alter perception, to explore consciousness, to reach for something just beyond ordinary awareness isn't a side effect of being human at all. It may be one of the reasons we became human in the first place. The fire in Utah is still burning. The 4 seeds rest quietly beside it. And somewhere in that darkness, a single human being makes a choice, one that will echo across thousands of generations to come.